today again, I think. Only this time we're going to put a little bit something, we're going to do a little twist of a gnocchi by adding a sweet potato. Not ricotta cheese, not regular potato, but sweet potatoes. So today we're going to make them a little bit more nutritious by adding a little different type of ingredients, but they're really good for you and nutritious. And what I did ahead of time is I took 3 medium-sized sweet potatoes or yams, whatever you have in your grocery store, and I boiled them in water until the knife just came right out, slipped right out, so nice and tender. Cooled them, took the skin off, and I stuck them in my bowl and I mashed them with a potato masher, just by hand. Then I put them in my measure cup here. I actually had 3 cups. So you figure 1 medium potato is almost a cup. And for this recipe, we want 2 cups of sweet potatoes mashed. So I took a cup out, which is always nice because you can use this cup. I have a wonderful recipe that someday we'll make, and it's called sweet potato muffins. And they really are delicious, and I made them so nutritious. You don't use sugar. I put a little bit of honey molasses, but that's another time. Today we're going to focus on making sweet potato gnocchis. And so we're going to start with my 1 cup of unbleached flour, and the other cup in here is the whole wheat organic bread flour. So we're going to just mix that in our bowl. Actually, I probably wanted to do it the opposite because, you know what, I'm going to just take a little bit out, because what I'm going to do to the flour, I'm going to mix to make it more nutritious for you and your family. I have a little bit of flax meal, and we're going to put 2 tablespoons of flax meal, there we go, into our flour. And that's going to make it more nutritious for you. That's good brain food. You want to get some flax into your diet as much as you can. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of splitting the flour. I'm going to put 1 egg into our bowl. And then I have my homemade basil pesto. And oh, it's got lots of garlic in it, fresh basil, oil. This one I made with a little bit of slivered almonds and some pine nuts. I didn't have enough pine nuts, so I combined it with, I had slivered almonds in my fridge, so I just combined that. I did not put the normal Parmesan cheese in this particular one. I make a whole bunch of them ahead of time and I freeze them, and that way you can use them whenever, however you want to. Then I'm going to take my 2 cups of sweet potatoes. Okay. And we're going to just, I think I'm going to trade and get my bigger scraper here, use it as a spoon, and just start mixing all this together. Look at that orange and green. Look, with the sweet potato and the basil pesto coming together. Whoops. You can smell the garlic. These are going to be so delicious. And again, these can be made and put in the cookie sheets, which I'm going to do. I always like to do that because sometimes I want to freeze it, and sometimes I want to eat some of it and freeze the rest. So today I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to cook some, and I'm going to show you. I did another little twist on how we're going to plate it. I like to be a little creative. I don't always like to serve gnocchis with the sauce, spaghetti sauce. And sometimes I don't want to just serve gnocchis with plain oil. So I'll throw maybe some green beans in there, which I have steamed up here on my stove right next to me. This is getting almost a little firm now. We can probably put it onto our clean board. There we go. And we've got the 2 cups of flour. We're just gonna get it off, all the good stuff off of our rubber scraper. Now I did not add salt, and there was a reason for that, because I don't like to over salt my food. So when I boil my gnocchis, I will put some salt in the water. So we're just gonna slightly bringing this all together. You're not quite kneading it, you're just kind of using your hands as a spoon. It's a nice tender feeling because it's you get a lot of moisture and softness from the sweet potatoes. And you know what? Sometimes you may want to add a little bit more flour, depending on how tender you want your gnocchis. If you add a little bit more flour, it'll make it a little firmer, which is nice. So it's kind of, again, it's not rocket science. It's totally up to you. Now you see how that's come together really nicely? See? And it's, yeah, it's really good. It's a nice, comfortable feel to me. I could put a little bit more flour, or I don't have to, but I've got my whole wheat over here, and I've got my unbleached over here. I'm just gonna get my big tablespoon, put a couple, one of each, so I could have, kind of make it even, kind of mix it together, and just add a little bit more. Because you don't want it too wet feeling. So I say 2 cups, but if you want to add a little bit more, add a little bit more. All right, now we're going to just, look at how nice that is. We're just going to let that rest for a little bit, a few minutes. Okay, we had let our sweet potato dough rest here for a few minutes, 5 minutes, however much time you need in the kitchen to do anything else. Maybe get your pot of water boiling, which I have on my stove, and I'm just cutting off wedges, and I'm just rolling them out like snakes. I'm kind of dipping my knife into some flour, and just kind of keep your hands powdery, and then just put them on the cookie sheet. You don't have to put any oil, nothing on your cookie sheet, because what I like to do is get them in the freezer. I like to flash freeze them so that I can stick, I put them in usually for about a couple hours, and then I stick them in a nice airtight baggie so that whenever I want to pull out some gnocchis, they're all frozen separately, individually. They're not stuck together, and then you can take some out to use as a side dish to do what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to throw some green beans in there that I like to have it with, or you can take them out and have them with spaghetti and meatballs. Just a few more left to make, and when you're rolling them out, you know, I was going to say, just roll them out maybe to the thickness of your finger. It's kind of a good measure. And also these, because they have the sweet potato, there's more moisture. What I'm doing is after I slice them into chunks, mix it into the flour. That'll put a little bit more flour into them. Dust them off with your hands, just let them fall through. And then when you start them up again here, you can roll them a little bit more into the flour. That's a really nice feeling, nice texture dough. This is going to be a longer one. You see how easily that rolls out? Doesn't break or anything. It's just amazing. And if you want to put your knife in there as well, so it doesn't stick, and then just kind of little flour, dust it lightly, dust the whole thing, gets a little bit more, and then just shake it off like that, separate them, and you're all set to go to stick them in your freezer. But in this case, we're also not only going to freeze them, I'm going to come over here to my pot, which is boiling, because I want you to see the versatility of this, is you can go ahead and make them for dinner, and then you can throw them into the boiling water. I do want to put a little bit of oil in my water. Kind of calms it down. It also kind of helps the pasta not to stick. Put them in a little at a time, because you can see it's a real rolling boil. So I'm just taking my little spatula here. It's got holes in it, and it kind of shakes a little bit dust off of the gnocchi. You could use a fenestrated spoon if you'd like to. Whatever you've got, you can use. And it's still boiling. We're going to just simmer it. Just put it down a notch, because I have an electric stove. There, and just toss it. Stir it lightly. Okay? And now you want to wait. You want it to just simmer a little bit. I calmed it down a wee bit. Again, with electric, it's kind of hard. I'm going to put some salt in my water, because I did not salt my gnocchi, my sweet potato gnocchi. So now it's going to get the salt. And now it's got a lightly roll to it, nice rolling boil. We're going to let that work its way out until the gnocchis work themselves up to the top of the water. And when they come up, we can take our nice big holy spoon. I think it's an oriental, like a strainer when you're deep frying, but I don't do deep frying. So this is my gnocchi spoon. And they're bubbling up nicely. I don't know if you can see that. They're bubbling quite nicely to the top. Just about ready to come out. And again, you don't have to take them out immediately. Just kind of go by what it looks like. Do they all look like they've come to the top? Or if you want to take it out and try one. But usually when it comes to the top, we can turn our water off and slightly, well, carefully I should say, take them out of the water. Drain all the water off as much as possible. And then we'll put them in our plate over here. Oh, look at that. Look at what a nice light orange color they are. They're kind of fun, and you'd be surprised how much your children would like them. I have a lot of grandchildren, and even when they were little, they loved my homemade gnocchis. And they also like to help make them too. Remember, you want to have fun in the kitchen. You want to start making memories. Let your kids help. It's like playing with Play-Doh. There we go. And what I'm going to put in my gnocchi is a little bit of, I had some garlic butter left over when I made bread last week, and we're going to let that all melt together. You break it up if you'd like, and then I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil, because don't forget, I said I was going to add one other ingredient to give it a little different a spin on our gnocchi. We're going to put some green beans in here that I simmered and steamed up. They were sitting on my stove. Ooh, smell that. That is delicious. And you can put as many or as little as you'd like and just stir it all up. Look at that. And then, of course, we always have to top it off with our Parmesan cheese. I shouldn't say Parmesan because it's really Pecorino Romano. That's my favorite. And there we are. There is a healthy plate of our sweet potato gnocchi with green beans. And it's chewy, and it's delicious. And it's a wholesome meal for anyone to eat, full of protein and fiber. Enjoy.